Have you ever looked at a sport like, say,
Yeah.
kiteboard racing, all high-speed foils in action? You just wondered, okay, where did that come from? It seems so modern, so
Yeah.
fast. Well, today we're doing a deep dive into its history. And you might be surprised, it's actually pretty recent, but wow, a really rich story there.
It really is a fascinating journey. And, like a lot of sports, its evolution comes down to, well, pioneers figuring out the rules, specific places.
Right.
And what's really cool about the material you sent over for this is we have this firsthand account, a direct voice from what might just be the very first official race.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack that. You gave us these details
Mhm.
from what people remember as one of the first official kiteboard races.
Mhm.
But here's the kicker.
Yeah.
It was originally called the Big Air Competition.
hmm
Kind of ironic, right? Because fundamentally, it was a race.
A race called Big Air. Oh,
Our
look.
source describes it vividly. It was at Crissy Fields, San Francisco. 3 buoys out there
Yeah.
marking the course.
Classic spot.
And this wasn't some big sponsored thing. It was put together by Steve Gibson and the person actually speaking in that audio source we have,
The pioneers themselves, Tori.
and the competitors. Like maybe 7 or 8 people.
Mm.
Names like Anthony, who actually won it, Jeff Kafka, and our source speaker.
Yeah, a small group.
Yeah. And the detail that really makes it feel real, Jim J.K. provided the food. It sounds less like some intense competition, more like, I don't know, a crucial community barbecue where sport just sort of happened.
That's what's so amazing here. It's not just that it was grassroots, which is cool in itself, but having like the original results, actual data from that very first regatta, that's a unique historical marker.
It really is.
It just highlights how kiteboarding, maybe unlike some older sports, had to figure out its rules really fast, right alongside huge jumps in the tech. That kind of shaped its whole identity, I think, this constant balancing act between tradition and just radical new stuff.
And that rapid jump from, a casual get-together to needing structure takes us right into maybe the trickiest part, the rules. Specifically, the rules borrowed from sailing.
Ah, yes, the RRS, the Racing Rules of Sailing.
Exactly. We're talking about this really detailed legal framework
Yeah.
designed for sailboats, covering everything from who has right-of-way to what happens if boats collide.
Which happens.
For sure. And look, the intention behind the RRS is good safety, fair play, sportsmanship, even environmental responsibility is in there. But our sources really show a big debate brewing.
It really brings up a key question, doesn't it? How do you balance making it fair and safe with keeping it accessible, especially for a sport that's so fast, so three-dimensional?
Right.
Some people argue the RS are just way too complicated. They scare off newcomers. Maybe even certified race officials get frustrated. We heard people talking about quitting because of lawyers on the water.
Oof, lawyers on the water.
Yeah. But then others defend the complexity. They say it's like chess, it's necessarily complex. And the answer isn't to simplify the rules, but maybe teach them better or just get people to follow them properly.
So 2 very different takes.
Definitely. And this complexity isn't just theoretical. Even pro sailors in really high-speed classes sometimes use simplified high-speed rules just to make decisions manageable with those crazy closing speeds and G-forces. It sounds a lot like the challenges in a modern kite foiling, actually.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And, U.S. Sailing updates the RS every 4 years. It shows this whole discussion is constantly evolving. It's not static.
Okay, so bring it to today. What does all this history mean for kiteboard racing now? I mean, the sport's obviously exploded.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got organizations like North Kiteboarding playing a huge role now, not just making gear, but really driving standards globally, supporting these big events where rules are constantly tested.
And you see that direct line, that heritage in events happening right now, like the 2025 F4 Foils Summer Wingding. That's the U.S. Wingfoil Championship.
Hosted by St. Francis Yacht Club, no less. Back near where it started, in a way.
Exactly. And that event, with athletes literally flying above the water on foils, that's a direct descendant. Kiteboarding's early obsession with speed totally paved the way for this next wave of, on-water flight.
So we've really traced it, haven't we? From that little San Francisco event, the Big Air Race, all the way to a global sport wrestling with these complex rules on the water.
Yeah, and if you sort of zoom out, the whole journey of kiteboard racing, from those informal barbecue beginnings to finding its place in this structured, rule-heavy world, it mirrors that classic sports challenge, right?
Which is,
How do you keep the competition fair and spirited, maintain that integrity, but also keep the door open for new people? How do you welcome enthusiasts when the sport itself is just pushing technology and speed like crazy?
that's a great way to put it. This deep dive really shows how that chase for speed and innovation, like in kite birding, keeps pushing human limits and the very rules we create to manage it all. Leaves you wondering what's next, doesn't it?